God wanted her to have this career. She had been called to God's service. Throughout her life, she believed that she heard God's voice. It took a number of years before she realized what this service could be. And during this period, she had breakdowns, she was unable to sleep, she starved herself, she didn't eat properly. Her menstrual cycle was therefore interrupted, and she had a guilt about being a woman who wasn't really a woman in a full physical sense.
But Florence could also be surprisingly exuberant. She was graceful and good-looking. She loved parties and she loved attention. There was one man that Florence did take seriously. Richard Monckton Milnes, the most eligible bachelor in London.
Flo, my dear, my waltz, I believe.
Yes, Richard.
I think she was sexually attracted to Monckton Milnes. He was a cultivated, sophisticated man. He was a philanthropist. He had a lot of interests in common with her.
He was a man of letters. He was a good translator of Greek. He wrote. He was an art collector. He was a gentleman. He was probably bisexual. He certainly had a lot of friends who could have gone either way.
Flo, my dear, I want to talk to you. It's important and very urgent. Will you come out on the terrace?
He was looked upon as a very promising young man, just the sort of man that Fanny and William Nightingale would have welcomed as a future son-in-law. He proposed 3 times. Flo didn't turn him down. She kept delaying or saying that she would wait.
Marry me, Flo. Or have you no feeling for me?
And it was only after the 3rd proposal that she wrote that said she couldn't marry him.
I love you dearly, but I cannot marry you, and I have told you why.
But she also wrote in her own private notes what torment it was and how she wasn't sure that she'd done the right thing.
My God, what is to become of me? In my 31st year, I can see nothing desirable but death. And yet do I wish to marry him? That voluntarily to put it out of my power ever to seize the chance of forming a true and rich life would seem to me like suicide. And yet my present life is suicide.
Florence's parents were furious that after a 7-year courtship, their daughter had rejected Monckton Milnes. Her mother, Fanny, had been banking on a big society wedding. Worse was to come when Florence then announced that she wanted to become a nurse.
Florence. Shall we ladies retire to the drawing room?
Fanny was horrified. A daughter going into a public hospital, unaccompanied, unchaperoned, which girls of Florence's background had to be to preserve their pure celibate nature. This would all be thrown overboard. She would be amongst disreputable people, people of low morals, people whose personal hygiene was of a low standard, who were drunk, with male doctors all around her, male just male in general. Fanny couldn't cope. She thought this was the most terrible idea. And she absolutely refused to give permission to Flo to follow this up.
Who is that? Me, Flo, dear. Please,
Florence's sister, Parthenope, was even more distraught. They had been close as children, but now Florence's wayward behaviour began to undermine her.
Oh, how can you? How can you make us so unhappy?
Do you think I want to?
Poor Mama. She's gone to bed in tears.
I know I make you all unhappy.
It has to be said that all the Nightingale women were good at using hysterical outbursts to get their own way. But in the case of Parthenope and Florence, the ructions between them caused such havoc in the household that eventually in 1852 Parthenope had a nervous breakdown because she believed her sister was isolating herself from her. And This breakdown caused Mr. Nightingale to decide that really the family would have to be split up and that Florence would have to be allowed to go and satisfy her nursing ambitions.
At 32, with an income of £500 a year, Florence was finally free. She had already received some nursing training in Germany. Now she was off to Paris to see how hospitals were run. But it had been in Rome that she'd met the man who would dramatically alter the course of her life, the reformist MP, Sidney Herbert.